Hi folks, back again, Bassett Chronicles number 135, excuse me. Okay, today is Sunday, the 11th of July, and I'm going to talk about basketball. I'm sure most of you out there know, is it LeBron James? It's LeBron something or LeBron Jones or something. This is this 25-year-old kid who I had never heard of before. In other words, he's sort of like Michael Vick. I'm sure you guys remember Michael Vick. I didn't know who Michael Vick was until he was arrested for dog fighting and dog killing and things like that. This LeBron, whatever, James, I'm pretty sure it's James, I can't remember. I'm sure you guys know though. I didn't know who he was until, you know, he's on MSNBC and here and there and everywhere. But I thought it was kind of interesting. They made this big deal out of the fact that he was going to go to another team. I think he, and I could be wrong on this, was playing for Cleveland, I think, and I could be wrong. Maybe it wasn't Cleveland. I don't know. Well, it's not really important. I don't care who he was playing for. They had this hour-long program, and the whole hour-long program was nothing but supposedly sitting around waiting for him to say where he was going to go. And I do know this, he decided he was going to the Miami Heat. Now, there was also a letter published in, I don't know if it's Cleveland or not. I get all this stuff mixed up because I'm not a basketball fan, if you will. But the owner of the team where he was, which I think could have been the Cavaliers, though I wouldn't swear to that, he had this letter, and boy, he was ticked off. And it, from what little I remember, I think this fellow grew up in that area or something, and it was sort of like he abandoned his city or something, abandoned his fans or what have you. And no telling how many trillions of dollars they're paying this kid, 25 years old. And I hope he doesn't end up like a lot of the athletes, shooting himself, shooting somebody else, or whatever it is they do. But what is the point of all this? Glad you asked. Glad you asked. Basically, what I know about basketball is you have 5 folks on the court. If you shoot the ball and get it in the basket further back, I think you get 3 points. If you're closer in, I think you get 2. If you get a foul or something happens, you get a free throw where you stand at the line, nobody can get at you, and you throw the ball up and you get a point. Sometimes you get 2 or 3 free throws or whatever. But actually what I wanted to mention, since we have this 25-year-old kid who is being paid no telling how many millions of dollars to play basketball, I wanted to mention my uncle. Yep, my Uncle Smalley. He played basketball, well, it's been a while, frankly, but he did play professional basketball. He played, as I best remember, he played for the Syracuse Nationals at one time, and when I saw him play, I actually went to the court or the stadium or whatever you call it to see him play. He was playing for the Baltimore Bullets, and I think this was back in somewhere around 1950 or 51, somewhere in that range. And of course, playing for the Bullets, he lived in Baltimore, and I traveled to Baltimore a couple of times and spent the weekend with him and my aunt, and of course I would go to the basketball game. Keep in mind I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, and it's been a while. And but I remember it was pretty exciting, you know, to see your uncle out there on the basketball court, man, throwing those balls in and all that kind of stuff, and he takes you back in the locker room, you know, with all the basketball players and things like that. One thing I remember in his apartment, in his refrigerator, he had a bunch of prune juice. And years and years later, you know, I mean many years later, he and I would talk occasionally, and one time I mentioned to him about the prune juice, and he said that, I'm not sure what you call those things, like when you go to an event, a sporting event, a program, yeah, a program. They had, one of their main advertisers in their program was this company that made prune juice. So the players got free prune juice, which I guess that was a big deal. He also said that some of the cities he went to, they had, you know, I guess what you call rich or wealthy or well-to-do or whatever, or real fanatical fans, business people, and they would be invited out and get a free steak dinner. I don't think my uncle made $1 million or anything like that. But I guess the times have changed. I think my uncle actually played basketball because he, to use the word, loved the game of basketball. And this is what he really wanted to do. And he was given the opportunity to do it. And he was an interesting fellow. Sadly, he died a few years ago. Interesting fellow. He grew up on a farm in North Carolina. They were, to use the word, dirt poor. I mean, poor. Poor. They had no money. In fact, when he first started playing, he also played baseball well. And he had a chance, was offered a contract to be a professional baseball player. But when he was growing up, the family didn't even have enough money, you know, for him to have spikes or cleats or whatever you call it, you know, that you use for baseball. You know, he had tennis shoes. But the other interesting thing about my uncle, well, let me go to part two. I'll be back in just a minute. Production assistant.